Todd is president and co-founder of Brandwise. Today, again, Todd is going to talk with us about the newest tablet technologies so that we can make educated decisions on what types of tablets to integrate into our sales processes.
Thanks, Penny. Somebody asked me quickly to encapsulate what this presentation was about. I thought about it for a second, and the easiest way to describe what we're going to talk about in the next 15, 20 minutes, so you guys can actually get to eat lunch. And if you believe that, don't, because it'll take me longer. We're in it's technological chaos, which is really where we are today. And thinking of ways to visualize that a little bit, I'll ask you guys to raise your hands. How many of you guys use iPhones in the room? Okay, so you look around, spattering. How many use Android phones? Okay, a little bit less. How many BlackBerries? Interesting. And how many anything else? One, okay. So pretty good example of different platforms where different applications run on these different phones, don't run on different phones, so on and so forth. So further to that question, how many know what this is? You can say it. What is this? How many of you own one of these? Okay, probably less than the national average. Anybody know what this is? What was that? Okay, nope. All right. So what it is an Android. It happens to be an Acer Android platform. Anybody know what this one is? Nope. Nope. This is a Windows 7 slate. So this runs full Windows. So what you're seeing is a little bit of the gambit of the technology that's out there today. Some everybody knows about, some less people know about, and some almost nobody knows about. So the question about, obviously I doubt that anybody owns an Android tablet. How many people in the room own either a PC, a laptop, or a Macintosh? Pretty much everyone in the room. Okay. So that's the type of stuff that we'll be going through today. And what I'll be trying to identify is two pieces. One, the platforms, and two, how do you make these platforms interact with everything that you've heard about today? Whether it's social networking, websites, different things. Certain tablets, certain PCs won't work with certain platforms that are out there right now, and there's different ways to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the hardware, and we're going to talk a little bit about cloud computing and try to give you some ideas of what that may mean relative to what you do. See if I can figure this out. No. Oop. All right, so quickly on the agenda. Again, what's the difference between these devices at a high level? We'll go through. Hardware platform update, which we talked about a little, and where's it all going, what you need to know, is your head in the clouds, what is the cloud? All right, so the first thing on the iPad, I'm going to play a couple of short video clips. Some you've seen, some you probably haven't seen. If you can go ahead and click on that iPad. So what you noticed in that video, and all of the videos for the most part that you see with an iPad device, is that it is a data consumption device. What does that mean? It means that it serves stuff up for you to look at. Well, you saw there was videos, looking at graphs and scrolling through, looking at pictures, watching stuff happen, browsing websites. That's really what the iPad was designed for, and it does it tremendously well. It's very easy to look at. People like it. It's lightweight, does that stuff easily. It runs on an iPod operating system. So for all of us that had the iPod, they took the iPod and they made it bigger, and they've done a remarkable job of marketing it. Its primary purpose was for entertainment. So all of the commercials that you see on TV, consumer-driven, whatever it is, are all based on entertaining you. It's what it's made for. Web browsing, long battery life. So you can take it to the airport, you can watch movies on planes, you can do all that stuff, which is lightweight processing. It's not really doing a whole lot, so it gives you a tremendous amount of battery life, which is a real positive. One of the downsides to the iPad is it doesn't have any external ports. You can't plug your memory stick in. You can't put your SD card in. You can't easily take it, put a presentation on it, and play it on an overhead. Some of the limitations it has will be limitations as long as Jobs is still alive, and probably beyond that, because he has a look he's interested in, not necessarily a functional process he's trying to accomplish. Not that he's done a bad job. One size fits all. So the size that you're seeing here, other than a little bit thinner with the new version of the iPad, it's a 10-inch, 10.1 inch. There was some talk early on about changing the size, but it's not going to change. That's the size it's going to be, at least for the foreseeable future. It's internet dependent, meaning that when you first start that up, you have to go to the internet, register with the iStore to get yourself going. And it requires a wireless provider. So right now, if you're going to get that service, you're going to be with Verizon or AT&T, which is a bit limiting to it, but once again hasn't limited sales a whole lot. And the average price of an iPad with Wi-Fi 3G 16 gig base version is about $630. You can get it less if you don't do 3G and so on and so forth, but that's really about where it falls in today. So the next piece of the world is that Android tablet. If you wouldn't mind clicking on the Android. This is probably a commercial none of you have seen.
In a true kind of way, there's a new kind of something between your eyes and mine. If you see what I'm saying, and that is what I'm thinking, we'll love what's there to find. Come with me. There's a world here to see.
Acer, Iconia Tub.
So that's the one that's getting passed around right now. Exactly the same as an iPad, for the most part. It's a data consumption device. It's built for reading stuff, browsing, movies, all that type of stuff. It's based on the Google Android operating system. For those of you with the Android phone, this is the bigger version, although you can't put it up to your ear and talk into it very comfortably. It's made for entertainment, web browsing, long battery life just like the iPad, doesn't have a hard drive in it, doesn't do heavy intensive processing. One of the differences, it does have external ports. It has a USB port on it. It has ability to put your SD cards into it. So as you start looking at the different devices and saying, well, which one do I want? There are some advantages to the Android over the iPad simply in its ability to use external devices. It has the ability to plug in an HDMI and plug it straight into a big screen TV or into a projector. Many sizes, many prices, many choices. There's gazillions of these devices out there. Most of them you haven't heard of. The Zoom you heard of for a little while, and then it sort of went away because they had some issues with it. It's still out there, but they're not marketing it so much. But from 7-inch to 10-inch to 12-inch, a zillion different price points. There's a lot of manufacturers coming out with Androids. One of the downsides to it is that the user interface, when you turn it on, every manufacturer creates their own look and feel to what you see when you turn it on. Turn an iPad on, looks like an iPad. You turn a PC on, it looks like a PC. You know that operating system. With Android, you have to learn a little bit about every one that you turn on. Every phone that everybody has from a different provider, when you turn that on, looks a little bit different. No standard user interface, getting ahead of myself. Wireless provider is optional. So the one that I purchased, I went to Best Buy and didn't need a wireless provider, just bought the unit. I can connect it to Wi-Fi, or I can connect it through my phone to 3G or 4G network. This particular tablet off the shelf at Best Buy, which is the same similar model without the 3G to that iPad, is $449.99. I can buy these for $200. I can buy them for $700, depending on what's in them. There'll be a huge divergence in price, and it will be very interesting to see what that does over the next few months to the iPad sales. Will it drive their price down? Will it not drive their price down? It'll be fairly interesting to see. And finally, the Windows 7 slate. So I'm going to play a video here. I'm only going to play about a minute and a half of a 3-minute video, and you can see the rest of it on our website or on our Facebook page, but if you wouldn't mind clicking that. So what you're seeing here, and the idea behind this is that the programs that run on that Microsoft slate that's running out there, it can be used for the same thing that the other ones are used for, these other slates, but it's really a data creation device. It's a PC-based system. So what you saw in that video was creating a sales order, adding products to an order, doing that type of stuff. The reality of it is, though, in a touchscreen-only form, and for those of you guys that have iPads, is there anyone out there that can say that they are as efficient, for instance, typing an email on their iPad as they are on any other keyboard-enabled device? Probably not, because you're using two fingers, you can't lay your hands down on it. It's not as easy. It takes up half the screen, that type of stuff, if unkeyboarded. So what you end up doing is exactly what you just showed. You buy keyboards for it. With my Microsoft PC, with all of the rest of them, there's Bluetooth keyboards, any of the rest of it, to make it productive. So as you start going through that, what you're going to start seeing is more and more hybrids, where keyboards are built in, different things like that. One of the advantages to a device like this over the other two is I can use a mouse on this device. The iPad and the Androids don't even support mice. The concept of it, you can plug into the USB slot on the iPad, on the Android like I did, and then soon realize that, well, wait a second, you can't use a mouse on it. So you end up with a hybrid between typing and touching, which is fine, but again, it just depends on what you want to use it for. Microsoft Windows 7 standard user interface looks just like your PC. Again, it can be used for entertainment. I watched movies on it on the way out here. You can look at pictures. You can do web browsing. Median battery life, the one that I have doesn't have a replaceable battery, and if I use it for Excel and all of these heavy-duty applications, I can probably get 3 hours, 3.5 hours out of it. There are versions coming out, fast and furious, that will have replaceable batteries, 10 to 20 to 30-hour batteries. You'll actually be able to get laptops within the next, you can already start to get them now, within the next couple of months touted with 30-hour battery. So if you do Microsoft Math, 10 hours you might get out of that battery, which isn't so bad when you think about it. USB ports, SD slot. So that unit I'm passing around has two USB ports. It has an SD slot. It has an internal hard drive. It has a video out. So all of the functionality that you would want from a laptop, but just in a flat screen. Many sizes, prices, choices. 7-inch screens, the one I have is 13-inch screen, and everything in between will be the different sizes from every manufacturer that manufactures PCs now. Solid-state hard drive, the difference between that and the others have, they don't have any hard drives, they just have static RAM. That device actually comes with a solid-state hard drive, as do all of the Microsoft slates. Wireless provider is optional, just like on the Android. You can get it with 3G in it, you can get it through a wireless provider, but you don't need to do that. Price-wise, the Asus that I have with all the peripherals is about $1,000. But they start out with an XOPC, minimal 11-inch screen, 64 meg, 2 gig of RAM, Windows 7, $699. So you're going to be able to buy those PCs as they start coming out more frequently between $500 and $1,200, depending on what you're looking for. So let's talk a little bit about the cloud and how it relates to all of these types of things. The different programs that were mentioned today and using social networking and using websites, when you're putting a website up or you're buying this technology, one of the other things that you need to think about is, will it run on an iPad? Will it run on an Android? Will it run on a PC? Will it run on a Mac? Because these are what everybody has. Well, most of you, not maybe most of you, some of you have heard that you can't run Flash on an iPad, not because it's physically impossible, because Apple doesn't want it to run on an iPad. So if you have your site built with a lot of Flash and doing a lot of things, and you've got people that are trying to use it on an iPad, they're not going to be able to take advantage of that. Android, you can run that, but Silverlight you can't run. Silverlight's Microsoft's version of Flash. We use Silverlight. So our website won't run natively on an iPad, and it won't run natively on an Android. So how do you get these to run on all these different platforms? One of the ways that you can do that is cloud computing. We'll talk a little bit about cloud computing. Is there anybody that thinks that they have a good, clear understanding of cloud computing? Good. Neither is anybody else. So what's the cloud? Really, at its most basic level, it's simply the internet, a vast array of servers around the world that comprise it. When people say a digital document is stored or a digital task is being performed in the cloud, they mean that file or application lives on a server you can access over the internet via a web browser or app rather than local devices. It's different than websites. Websites are web-hosted. They're, if you will, in the cloud. What cloud computing is really all about is providing applications through the web. So it doesn't matter what you're running it on, whether you're running it on a smartphone or a PC or a Mac or whatever, the entire application is being served up to you over the web. This is Apple's cloud. So instead of envisioning things up in the sky like you would cloud computing, it's actually down on the ground. It's quite ugly. It's quite large. Just giant server hosting. So benefits of the cloud. So on the iPad, you can run iPad applications. Yes? Yeah. On the Mac, you can run Mac and Microsoft depending on your emulation. On Android, you can run Android. On a PC, you can run Mac and Microsoft depending on emulation, meaning you can run applications on those devices that will let you run applications written for one or the other. Smartphones, you can run iPad. On an Android, you can run Android. In the cloud, everything runs because it doesn't care what your platform is. It's an application that sits on there that you can't really tell is on there, and you click on it, and it's going to run those things, whether it's Flash, whether it's PC application, whether it's Excel. If you want to run Excel on your iPad, you can. If you want to run a Flash application on your iPad or your Android, you can if it's being pushed up through the cloud. Scalability and agility. For those of you that may have large IT groups or lots of desktop computing that takes place, there's a philosophy out there that cloud computing will reduce your IT requirement. Most of us don't have IT groups that large, and there's pros and cons to it. You may reduce some of the hardware requirement that you have locally, but you have a whole nother layer of complexity in hosting the cloud and keeping it up and running. Spend less time on computer maintenance and more time on things that affect top and bottom line, potentially. And you'll see that as I get through this cloud thing, there's a lot of potential and a lot of conjecture, not a lot of facts yet, because it's still new, it's still growing, cost is still being sorted out, pros and cons, all that type of stuff. So thoughts to ponder when you're deciding on the cloud for your applications. Is it ready for prime time? Some of you may have heard there's a lot of press. If you go look at issues with the cloud or anything like that, you're going to see Amazon's crash. So is Amazon really cloud computing? Is it more web-based? Whatever it is, what's coming out of that was their whole site went down and it's being blamed on cloud computing. Who can host your applications in the cloud is a good question. That's something from a Brandwise perspective we're looking at right now. So Quest can't. They don't have anybody in their world that understands how to do cloud computing. They can put the servers up, but they can't host your applications. It's still a bit new. It's still pretty expensive, still pretty pricey, so it's a good question when it comes to that. Are there additional costs associated with running them in the cloud? Absolutely there are. Is it less than running it locally? Depends on what you're doing. We provide wholesale systems to agencies and suppliers around the country, and they'll have a server that sits in their showroom that they can go out and buy for $500, and they'll run them 2 or 3 years, and they can throw it away. If somebody wants to take that to the cloud, can they do that as cheaply? No, they can't. As reliably? Probably not. So you really have to decide, does it make sense or not? What happens if you can't get internet connection? Anybody have a guess? If you're cloud computing, you don't have internet, what happens? Absolutely nothing. Is cloud computing best for all my applications? Absolutely not. There was in my last conference, somebody said, I've got a payroll system that I paid a couple $100 for, and there's an upgrade and they want me to take it to the cloud, and it's going to cost me like $2,000 a year. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. Is there a reason to have your payroll system in the cloud? Not necessarily. If you're going to be using it from all over the country and you don't have a local application, maybe. But if you're sitting in your office and you have a server and you have the infrastructure, what's the benefit to having it in the cloud? Minimal. What's the downside? If you lose your internet, pretty extreme. You don't have your payroll system or whatever your accounting system is for that entire period of time that the systems are down. So general conclusion, we're in the middle of a major technology revolution, and it's just beginning. And you're going to see so many devices coming out that make your head spin. The key to success during this time is understanding how technology works towards your goals, not how your goals can be manipulated to conform to technology. And what I mean specifically by that is Apple has done an unbelievable job of marketing the iPad. Lots of people have them. And lots of people are bringing them into their businesses and saying, hey, I don't want a laptop. I don't want to have to buy anything else. I bought this iPad. Make the software work with an iPad. And it's making technology companies like mine and businesses crazy right now. Because all right, we need to chase all this down. There is a benefit. I don't have to buy you a laptop because you have an iPad, but now I need to support these applications on an iPad, and it really wasn't built for that type of processing. So how do you, what's the best practice? It's a good question. But you really need to make sure that you're meeting the goals of each of your businesses with the technology and not letting it be the other way around. And anybody that's getting into something with any of the partners that you've spoken to today, and I'm sure all of them are looking at this to make sure that their applications and their webs are platform independent, make sure that your partners are looking at both online and offline capabilities and options. So where you talk about computing, cloud computing, does it work offline as well? Is it a component of it? Is it only one way? If you go with a company, for instance, and there's a number of them out there that are writing applications specifically for an iPad, it won't run on an Android. It won't run on a PC. It won't run on a Macintosh. It will run on an iPad. So if 50% of your company comes in and forces you down that path, and the other 50% go, you know what, I can get an Android for $300 less, make the application work on the Android, you're sort of stuck. So you really want to make sure as you're going forward with technology partners, they're looking at all of these different options. So for consistent updates on this and to see this presentation, which will get posted by the end of the week, please feel free to friend us on Facebook. It's Brandwise Inc. And you'll be able to pull up this as well as other videos on things that we have.
Okay, thank you, Todd.